And welcome, Chair White. It's great to have you back. We talked privately, and I've seen the press release from the SEC in regard to the tick size pilot program. You have implemented a 5-month delay. We've talked about that. This is not going to be a death by 1,000 delays, is it? You're still committed to implementing the pilot program?
Totally committed to it. Totally committed to it. We want to get it right, though, so it'll be meaningful. Obviously, that's the goal. And we thought long and hard about it. We calibrated the extension so that we could get good, reliable data, so we get the results we're hoping for from the tick size pilot. Totally committed to going forward with it.
And we want good data as well, and to make sure the pilot program is set up correctly. A little more time isn't met with a big objection from us, just as long as you're still committed to implementing the pilot program. So thank you for that. I want to follow up on the Chairman's question in regard to the corporate bond liquidity and its relationship to the Volcker rule. We think there's a great tie-in to economic growth and job creation through the corporate bond market. And I think you indicated today and in your last testimony that you don't see a correlation between the Volcker rule and the lack of liquidity in the corporate bond market. Is that correct?
That has been the conclusion of each of the joint agencies, including ours, quarterly reports to this committee. In terms of not being able, certainly, to determine that it is, I think is a better way to say it, perhaps.
Let me be clear first. You would agree there is a liquidity issue in the corporate bond market,
well,
yes?
I agree that there is a concern, yes. I mean, I think we try to give in each quarterly report exactly what we're seeing in the liquidity, and sometimes it's quite strong, and sometimes it's, it's somewhat more volatile, but clearly close eye on it and a concern.
So if not the Volcker rule, then what? What is causing the lack of liquidity? I mean, you have to ask the question, and it has to be a concern for you. What's causing it?
Well, again, I think you have to look at whatever particular market we're talking about at a particular point in time and what is the liquidity, because sometimes there'll talk about the lack of liquidity and it's quite robust at that time. So that's why in those reports we do both, here's what we're seeing in the primary markets, here's what we're seeing in the secondary markets, and then also try to analyze what is having an impact on that. Everybody keeping very close eye on, the diminution of liquidity, which would be very, of great concern to everybody.
And it would.
But ferreting out impacts is not easy in that space.
Right. There's great liquidity, but you hit a bump in the road, and all of a sudden liquidity vanishes. I think that's the cause for concern. And so you can say, yeah, sometimes there's great liquidity. That's true, but we care more about those little bumps that liquidity vanishes. And I think a lot of us would argue that the liquidity issue has arisen with Volcker and Basel and all the rules and regulations that have come to pass. And I don't know if you don't want to share your personal opinion because it might be contrary to the position of FSOC. I get that, but
no, it's not. It's not that. I really do. Bore into this with our own staff, too, because, one thing that, we do for every single rulemaking we do is to try to judge those impacts.
And I would argue that there's people on the outside, per the questions by the Chairman, have some significant disagreement. I want to go to, I only have a little bit of time left. I want to make just a quick comment in regard to the corporate political spending. Obviously, I get a lot of letters as well. I know that people rally folks up around the country, whether they're on the right or the left, to send me letters. I'm sure you get the same, and you know where those letters come from. There's a political agenda. But for a corporate political spending disclosure, would that protect investors if you did a rule to that effect? Would that be material to decisions investors make?
That may be to some degree, I suppose, the eye of the beholder. But clearly, if you're looking for, what's material to investors, under current law, in the particular context of a particular company, could be level of spending or something else unique about a company. If it's material now, it has to be disclosed. What is being sought is a mandatory disclosure rule.
Right.
Across the boards. Right?
I would agree. This isn't material in regard to investment decisions that are made. This is politics. Politics are coming at play, and they're trying to send a whole bunch of letters to you, so we can find out how corporations might give politically, and they can rally protests and sit-ins, and we know how the game works. But I would encourage you to push back and keep a sound, steady course. want to quickly pivot. We had the Director of Investment Management, David Grimm, into the committee. I don't know if you watched that testimony, but we talked to him about the systemic risk of asset managers and how FSOC had actually used your team and his team to get insight. And I didn't feel very confident that the expertise within the SEC has been tapped by FSOC. And it gives me concern that we have FSOC making decisions that are contrary to those experts in the field, say at the SEC with asset managers. Also, as Mr. Lutemeyer brought up, Mr. Woodall voted against MetLife and others, and those who don't have that expertise are voting to designate. So we do have some, and I know my time is up.
I would just say that staff is providing extensive expertise to FSOC on the subject of asset managers as in terms of, for example, the request for information that went out in December. I mean, that's quite active, and it's very important that we do provide that expertise. I think it's being received.
I didn't feel very confident through Mr. Grimm's testimony. I would yield back.
Time of the gentleman has expired. Chair now recognizes